If we just focus on that and that itself, 75% of the effort and the energy that goes into your clients should be on the relationship, should be on communication.
We've seen agencies with insane numbers and you look at their work and you're like, oh my goodness, it's not like so far superior to people making 5K a month or 10K a month or 3K a month. This is the After Brief. Except instead of boring bullet points and corporate jargon, you're getting the real stories, strategies, and insider tips that make real businesses grow. We're taking the stuff most people keep off the record and turning the mic on. All right, I am so excited for today's episode. Today we are talking all about client experience. This is such a critical topic for freelancers and agency owners that are looking to scale. And oftentimes it's one of the first things that we see dip as you start to bring on new clients. And I am so excited for our guest today, Nikki King, our Director of Ops and Growth at Lucky Girl Social, who has over a decade of experience working at agencies and really focusing on client success. So welcome, Nikki.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and talk about client experience today. It is something I obviously have a little bit of experience in, and I think it's one of the most important things for an agency to focus on. So I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a topic that we could literally talk all day on, and I think it's just critical to the success of an agency. And as you start to grow, as you start to scale, maybe you're going from being a solopreneur where your clients can directly rely on you. And as you start to introduce team members, there's a lot of opportunity for things to slip through the cracks or for them not to feel like they're getting that high level experience. And obviously we teach high ticket retainers and agencies and not needing 100 clients to grow. So when you're charging high ticket, multi 4, 5 figures a month, you have to make sure that your client experience is the bread and butter. So from your experience, what would you say is like one of the biggest issues when it comes to client success?
So when it comes to client success, I would say that the main focus has to be on the relationship that you're building with your client and the experience that they have working with you. And the experience is all about, goes back to the relationship, but it's all about communication. It's about trust. It's about being reliable. It's about being the person that they can come to and rely on when they have a question, an issue, or even just something that they want to run an idea by you, that you need to be their go-to person. And the way that I always like to approach client relationships is I always positioned myself as an extension of their team, and that immediately gave them a partnership feel rather than feeling like we were a vendor or it was just somebody that they brought on to work with them. Immediately positioning yourself as a trusted partner and as an extension of their team puts you in their business. And I think that's one of the most important things that you have to do to set your relationship off on the right foot. Now, when it comes to communication and trust, and we will get a lot more into this, I'm sure, but the biggest reason that companies leave agencies or fire agencies is because of their relationship. It's not about the results. It's not about them being unhappy with the creative work or the campaign. It's about their ability to trust you and be able to rely on you. And if there is an issue, it's about we'll get into this too, I'm sure, but it's about being honest and transparent about what's going on and building that trust. You have to treat client relationships like any relationship in your life, and it has to be nurtured. It has to be, effort needs to go into it. And I'm sure we'll get into a lot of this, but that's the biggest thing that needs to be a huge focus in agencies is client relationships and building that trust and being overly communicative.
I love that. And I couldn't agree more. One of the most frequent things I ever say is that business is like dating. And like your relationships with clients is very much like your relationship with your spouse or your kids or your friends. Like to think that you're never going to have an issue is just not realistic, but it's how you communicate, how like you handle that so that they feel like they're in good hands and that they're safe and they're being heard and respected, rather than digging your head in the sand and just like hoping it will pass by, because we all know sweeping things under the rug isn't a solution.
No, and you can't avoid the problems either. And I think, as you said, Lucy, it's very much like dating. Client relationships they have to be, any relationship in your life, you have to take accountability for the things that you do wrong. And if you don't, you lose trust immediately. And when you don't have trust, the client doesn't want to work with you. So they leave. And I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. I've learned a lot of hard lessons, but I've become a lot stronger in my professional life and my personal life because of it. I always say that working at agencies really thickens your skin. Yeah. And even though it's a grind and it's really hard work, it's such rewarding and valuable work, both professionally and personally. So it's a very important topic, and it's key to agency success. Really, it should be the main focus of any agency.
Absolutely, because it's way easier to keep an existing client than to land a new client. And if you're so focused, which I understand, on lead generation and sales, but you're not as focused on client delivery and client experience, you're going to constantly be like a hamster on a wheel, just like, utilizing, what's the phrase? Just like spinning your wheels, essentially, right? So I think it's just really incredibly important that as much as you focus on sales and business development, you're also focusing on client relationship and client experience. And ultimately, it's way easier to upsell a client, and the better client experience you have, your revenue is directly correlated with that because their lifetime value increases. The longer you can keep a client, the healthier your business is going to be, bar none. And I think it's just something that's skipped over so often because either people are uncomfortable about really pulling back the curtain and identifying like, okay, where are the gaps? Or they're so focused on sales and marketing that they allow their clients to feel somewhat abandoned.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people pleasing mentality that goes on too. And we have this idea that we always have to make them happy, right? We're always trying to over deliver. We're always trying to deliver the best results, the best of the best, but that's not reality. Life is not shiny and perfect all the time. And when you take a step back and are able to approach it in that way with that mentality, it's not about always delivering perfect results. Mm-hmm. You're never going to have perfect results. You can do amazing work, but the client could still not like it.
Yeah.
I've had so many conversations where I've tried to convince clients that like the work that was produced is absolutely incredible, but it doesn't resonate with them. That comes a lot of branding work I've seen that with, but that's very subjective. So you have to be able to take a step back and really focus on that relationship. And that's what's going to be the backbone of success with the client. There's actually a very interesting stat. HubSpot actually found that 72%, a very high number of clients leave an agency due to a lack of communication or responsiveness, not price or performance. So if we just focus on that and that itself, 75% of the effort and the energy that goes into your clients should be on the relationship, should be on communication. Obviously, you have to deliver results. You have to deliver high quality work, but there's always an amazing team that does that.
And let me tell you, we've seen agencies with insane numbers and you look at their work and you're like, oh my goodness, it's not like so far superior to people making 5K a month or 10K a month or 3K a month. It's that they have a good client experience and they're able to scale. Scaling becomes so much easier. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the people-pleasing tendencies, because we think it's serving others, but actually it creates a lack of respect and a lack of trust. I was just talking to a client recently And she was like, previously when I wasn't operating my business from a place of scarcity, I had really strict boundaries and I felt like my clients really respected me. But now I've lost some clients and I feel like I'm just like more bendable and I'm willing to go the extra mile and do these things. And I feel like I'm losing client respect at that point. And I think that was such a big moment for me and my own agency growth, because I was sweeping things under the rug, whether somebody was upset about something or we just were hitting heads about things. And the first time I actually communicated it, the respect I got from that conversation, that I thought like, oh, this is going to be a complete blow up. The client's going to fire me. Like, I just can't take it anymore. He saw me as an expert when I was able to clearly communicate why I was doing things the way I was doing it, why his way, while I understood his point of view in a respectful manner, I must add. Like, the respect is so incredibly important. So oftentimes you think you're doing things to be a people pleaser and you think it's going to benefit your relationship, but it's actually deteriorating the trust in your relationship. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because the second a client comes to you with a problem, you immediately want to shut down and think, oh gosh, what could I have done differently? How do I solve this? Why are they unhappy? Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, pick up the phone, pick up the phone. I cannot say this enough. Call them and make them feel seen and heard. Let's go back to relationships. When you're upset with your partner or with your best friend, with a family member, do you want, and they send you a text, they're really upset. Do you want them to sit there and think that you don't care? Or would it be better, and would you think you'd have a better result to pick up the phone and say, hey, I hear you. I totally can understand where you're coming from. Let's have a conversation because I care about this relationship. The second you do that, just pick up the phone and have a conversation. Not everything has to be formalized. Not everything has to be a really articulate, perfectly crafted email. And I think we should get into this too, because that goes a lot into, I think, what's behind delivering client experiences, and not everything has to be perfect either. I think people in this type of role have tend to have perfectionist tendencies as well, which goes alongside with people pleasing. But the second you pick up the phone, your client feels seen and heard, and it doesn't always have to be a hard conversation. I have been screamed at by CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies, and I'm not going to lie, there have been tears that came from that. But what I have learned in my time and my experience, and this came from growth, is that it's not personal. It's never personal. There tends to be a reaction, and people react when, it could be 10 other things going on in their life that cause them to lash out on you. So when you first step back and take away the fact that it's not personal, it's not an attack on you, you're immediately in a different mindset. And then when you just pick up the phone and call and say to them, listen, let's have a conversation. I don't want you to feel this way. There's always a solution, right? And I always taught my team, be solution oriented. Let's not focus on the problems. There's always something that can be done, and there's always a way to solve the issue that the client has. There's always something that can be done. And the first thing that has to be done is picking up the phone and making them feel seen and heard. And from there, it becomes easier. But those hard conversations are the ones where you're actually going to experience the better result. And I know that hard conversations are something that people shy away from, and I do too. We all do. It's a natural thing, right? And what I will say on that is I have experienced the most growth in my life, both personally and professionally, when I've had to have those hard conversations, when I've had to make those hard decisions. And it doesn't feel good in the moment, and your heart might be racing and you might be shaking a little. But after the fact, more often than not, I walk away and I say, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. So You stop the overthinking, you take that massive imperfect action, and you just move forward. And that's what's going to make the biggest difference.
And I think one thing I'll add quickly is that like that's where like that relationship gets to grow. That's where it deepens, is when you can have that conversation, that difficult conversation, and create a safe space. I always reference like my husband, how I knew he was the one for me because I grew up not thinking it was safe to express my feelings and pushing things under the rug. And the first time I did it with him, he was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you communicated that to me. Like, I'm so sorry. I didn't see it that way." And I was like, this is a safe space. Like, I'm safe here. And so I think you're robbing yourself of deeper relationships when you're avoiding those two things. But I think the problem that you touched on is that these are our babies. These are our businesses, which your business should not be your baby. I will say that. Like, you don't want to have to wake up in the middle of the night to feed your business. You don't want to, you don't want to have to not be able to go on vacation because you have a business that's a baby. So that's really important. But we take it so personally, and everything that somebody has to say about it feels like an attack on us when it's not ultimately positive. And you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to truly become the best in the business when you are avoidant of any of the problems. Like, and instead of looking at it as an attack, when a client says, "Hey, we have this issue," say, "Thank you so much. Like, this is a great opportunity for growth for us. We didn't see it this way. We didn't know. And if you're feeling like this way, it's likely other clients are feeling this way." And do you know what Tom Brady's favorite book is?
I don't, but I feel like I should.
We're both from Massachusetts.
Yeah, come Northeastern girls over here.
It's the 4 agreements. And one of the 4 agreements is not to take anything personally. And I always reference it to the girls in the program. I'm like, you have to read this book. He used to read it every year before season because he's like, every time I pick up something new from the book. And that is so incredibly important. Like you said, don't take things personally. They have 10 other things that are going on in their life. And maybe it's just like, not justified that they're coming at you like this. But if you can hear them and be like, "I understand, like, let's figure it out," they're going to immediately feel disarmed.
Immediately. And you would not be the Lucy Vincent if you did not reference or quote a book on your podcast. We're always laughing because Lucy should start a book club. She's always referencing the greatest books of all time. And Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. I hate to say it, but the greatest of all time. And there's a reason that he is, because he does the work and he has put in the work on himself. And I think that, we'll get into that in probably another episode, but putting in that, going through these hard experiences and becoming greater from it is all you can really ask for. And there's so much greatness that comes. It's better for yourself. It's better for your client relationship. It's better for the client. It's better for the agency. And overall, like, sometimes you just have to we can do hard things, and sometimes you just have to do the hard things to get there. But I think that something that I'd really like to dive into and touch on is boundaries. And this is so important. Setting expectations, clear expectations, managing expectations, setting boundaries, and sticking with them is so important to success and being respected. As you said, Lucy, your business should not be your baby. You shouldn't be a lot of people think it is, but you shouldn't be waking up to feed it at night. And in the same way, your client shouldn't be expecting you to answer a message at 2:00 in the morning or at 10 o'clock at night at 6 a.m. just because they want that from you.
Totally.
People always want things from you. And as you like to say, Lucy, they're simply expressing their desires. But that doesn't mean that the way you respond has to be to give them exactly what they want. But I think if you set those clear expectations from the start, you're set up for success. So I don't know if you want to get into this now, but I would love to get into like how to set up a client relationship for success from the get-go, from the second they sign, actually even before that. But
I think we share a brain.
Love that. We're in always into perfect synergy.
It's so incredibly important. And where we see most people experiencing client churn is because you haven't set up the expectations properly. And so when there's misalignment with expectations, people get frustrated. And so it is critical from before somebody officially pays that you explain to them what next steps are going to look like. First of all, it's a great sales tactic because you're painting the picture of what the future is going to look like together, but you're also setting their expectations of what it's going to look like. So a lot of times we find clients will come on and they're like, oh, can you start posting tomorrow? Or can you rush onboarding or whatever? And it's like, I would love to do that for you, but ultimately we need to be really strategic so that you're going to see the results that you're wanting. And it wouldn't be a benefit for you for us to rush the onboarding process. Like it's built this way for a reason. So really expressing from that proposal call what onboarding is going to look like, what the timeline is going to look like, what they can expect. And then as soon as they pay, we've set all this up with Dubsado for our clients, and automation goes out immediately with timeline for onboarding, what your communication style is, where they can reach you, what your response rates are, what are your days of operations, what are your hours, like what can they expect, when are you going to be delivering content to them, when can they expect things. Explain the entire process like you would to a second grader. Over communicate as much as possible so that they're not left wondering like, okay, what's Nikki doing today? Is she even working on my stuff? Like, does she even care? Or did I just pay her and now she's off in La La Land, right? And so just over communicating, because that's when we find clients are micromanaging one another, or their agencies, because they have no idea what it is that you're working on, and if you're even if they're even top of mind for you, and that's where you'll experience client churn.
Exactly. And I have worked on projects that for clients that require months worth of work within the agency and minimal client involvement. And those are the ones where you see that a lot. I mean, marketing strategy, you do all the research at the beginning, and then the agency has to go away and put in the work, do the research, competitive research, market research, SWOT analysis, pestle. I mean, they're diving into the weeds, and it's just a check-in. It's just communication. It's so simple. It doesn't have to be a long formal email. It can just be a quick phone call or a message. I actually worked at an agency where their main form of communication was WhatsApp. And I'm not saying WhatsApp is like the perfect solution, but it was a cultural thing as well, because their clients were all on WhatsApp and used to using it, but it made communication so much easier. And I encourage you to look at ways that you can communicate that doesn't put so much pressure on. Pick up the phone and just say, hey, just wanted to give you a quick update. Do you have a few minutes? Or send a quick message off. Hey, I pulled with a link to a Google Doc or your status sheet or your timeline. Hey, I updated this. This is where we're at. Just wanted to give you a quick check-in. Let me know when you're free for a 15-minute call. I mean, it's those little touch points that make the biggest difference when it comes to a client agency relationship. And that's when they feel seen and heard, and like you're actually there supporting them, and that they can trust you and rely on you.
Totally. I tell our clients to send a love note at least once a month.
They love a love note.
Like, it can be a quick email. It doesn't have to be formal, but like, hey, this posted really well, or hey, this campaign's going so well. I just wanted to like celebrate with you really quick. Like, it can be 2 sentences, but you're going to be reiterating to them that you're doing your job, that things are going well, rather than just waiting to the end of the month to deliver your analytics report, which everybody on this podcast, if you're not doing it, please do this. It's so important, because that's another opportunity where we don't need everything to be green across the board, but you need to be able to communicate to your clients, hey, this didn't perform the way that we expected it to. This is what we're doing next month to make those adjustments. And then they know that they have a partner. And so incredibly important.
And don't just deliver that analytics report. Walk them through that analytics report. What are the findings? What did we expect? What did we see? Where can we improve? What are our suggestions going forward? Make them feel like you are looking out for them in a way that goes beyond just presenting the data. Anybody can read an analytics report, right? It's when the way you're going to build that trust and position yourself as a true partner is being able to look at the data, even if it's never all green. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be, but it's more often than not
always
agree.
say marketing is like a hypothesis. Yes, we have data that we can utilize, but every account's different. So you're creating a hypothesis of what you think is going to work based on data inputs and based on your research, but it might not. And then you can use the data to make data-driven decisions, and that's when clients will literally fall in love with you.
They love you. They look at you googly-eyed, starry-eyed. They're like, oh, this is the one that I need to lock down, and this is the one that I need to be with long term. It goes back to dating always. It's relationships 101. And not only that, your data's not always going to be red. It's not always going to be green, because you should always be trying new things. You should always be pushing the limits, testing the boundaries, testing the waters, testing out new creative, new messaging. What is going to resonate with your audience? And if you're not testing new things, then things are just sitting there stagnant. And that's also when clients are like, well, what are you doing for me?
Yeah,
Are you actually complacent? Are you actually understanding my business? The world is constantly changing too. Nothing should ever in marketing should ever be sitting still, because the world is not sitting still. And there is so much noise to break through, so much noise. And it just continues. The noise is greater than it ever has been. And we can say that every single day, because it gets noisier and noisier and noisier as the days go by.
Yeah.
So if you're delivering that analytics report, you should be setting up a call with the client, walking them through it, or maybe they don't want to jump on a call. Fine. They might be too busy. I would still push for it, because then you're positioning yourself as a partner. But maybe there's a month where they're on vacation. Do a Loom
video.
We love a Loom video.
Love it.
We'll send 30-second Loom videos. Hey, just did this. Great. Love it. Because when you work remote, it can be challenging. But at least have that. And don't just send it. Don't just put it in an email. Send a link. Make sure you are actually communicating and positioning yourself as that valued partner. Because then they're not going to go find another shiny object syndrome, right? Agencies are always going to be pitching your clients. There's always going to be an agency that looks better, that shines brighter, that has beautiful results in their case studies. We all have beautiful results in our case studies, right?
Yeah.
So we're in marketing. We know how to craft those messages. We know how to make the results. They are amazing, of course, but we know how to position that. So there's always going to be something bright and shiny approaching your clients, and give them that reason to stay. Give them that trust, give them that partnership, prove your value, and they'll want to continue to grow with you, because there's always more to be done, unless the company goes out of business. But then, guess what? They're going to refer you to their contacts, to their connections. I had a mentor turned boss, and now he's a very, very good friend and somebody who I rely on a lot when it comes to business and my professional growth. He always said to me, your network is your most valuable thing in life. And this goes across all areas of your life. But I still speak to and am in pretty close contact with some of my first agency clients. And I was not the best. I worked my way up. I started as an account manager and worked my way up to a senior account manager, account director, and then ultimately in charge of all of the accounts and strategy behind them. Those connections that I took clients from agency to agency because of the relationship that I built with them. And that's not to say every client was like that, but that's where you see long-term success as well. And that's where the results were not always perfect. The results were not always perfect. There were issues. When I mentioned earlier, the CEO that was screaming at me on the phone, this isn't the exact person, but it was that company that I was working with, where I still have a very close relationship with the VP of marketing. And she's even wanted to hire me to be part of her team.
Yeah.
And it's just not, it's not.
She's here. She's mine.
It's good to be sought after, but it just goes to show when you build that trust. And again, I had to work through some of the hardest things that I've had to work through in my career with that client. And that's okay. That's okay. Because I built trust and I positioned myself as a valued partner and always had their back. Of course, I always say when you're in client relation, when you're in account management or project management, when you are in front of clients, it's like you have a mountain on this shoulder, that's the client and all the pressure that comes from it. And you are in the middle, you're in this valley in the middle of another mountain on this shoulder, which is your delivery team, the agency, everybody. And I've worked at not big agencies, but medium-sized agencies where, you have developers and graphic designers and copywriters. You're this middle ground, and there's so much pressure on you from both sides, and you're constantly tipping one way or the other, and you have to stay grounded and sturdy in the middle. But if you can position yourself well enough to be a trusted and valued partner to your clients, and they know that you always have their back, but also can deliver and respect your internal team and know how to work with them, and working with creatives and developers. I mean, those are two very different types of personalities, and I'm making generalizations here, but two very different types of personalities to work with. And then you've got corporate clients. You kind of have to, you learn how to work with a lot of different types of people and personalities. But when you're able to do that and master that, well, I think you can honestly do anything in life. But it's a lot of pressure. And I think it just goes to show, though, that is such an important role. And it's client relationships are everything. And it's going to end up determining whether you're successful or not, and whether you have those long-term gains from it.
You should be obsessed with client delivery and expectations and experience, obsessed with it. And I think we could do a whole other podcast about when you're scaling, how important it is to just be able to transfer the trust to other members on your team, because I think that is a major pitfall for scaling agencies where they're used to working with, say, Nikki every single day, and you're who they understand and they trust. And a lot of times people are like, oh, hey, Rob's going to take over. Like, good luck. See you later. And I think as agencies, as freelancers, as entrepreneurs, that transfer of trust, it's so much easier than you think. But you have to do it, because that's where people are like, oh, I don't want to work with Rob. I hired you for Nikki. And I think that's the biggest issue when it comes to really being able to scale to the next level. So I don't know that we have time to get into it today, but I think that we could do a whole episode on that, because it's so incredibly important.
Love that.
Well, I hope you guys found a lot of value in today's episode. We'd love to hear on social media what additional questions you have from this episode and what your biggest takeaways were. You can find us at It's Lucky Girls Social on Instagram. Anything else you'd like to add, Nikki?
No, I don't think so. But thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. And if you have any questions at all for us, please reach out. This is something we do in Charm Collective every single day. We help our clients work through their client relationships, and it's so exciting and so fun. And because we know how valuable it is to success, it's something that we always need to be focusing on and coming back to. So thank you for having me, and I hope that everybody was able to learn something from this.
That's a wrap on today's After Brief. Remember, the luckiest CEOs aren't born, they're built. Now, go make your move, share this with a friend who's ready to win, and I can't wait to see you next time.